The next thing I want to build is a pair of glasses, which takes us into the first non-human part of this project. It's an accessory that, along with the clothing, will start to define the appearance or the vibe that this person puts off, if you will. And so originally when I added this video to the course outline, I thought it would be something small, maybe even small enough to time lapse. But the more I thought about it, this is actually kind of a milestone in the portrait creation process. Because up until this point, we've only been trying to achieve a realistic human, which now that we've done that, we're going to transition into a person with a story and a history, a personality, how they like to express themselves in terms of appearance. And while of course you could kind of stop here and just render a naked human portrait, nothing wrong with that, but usually it's far more interesting to create a person rather than a mere human. And so I want to take a few minutes to do something that I think is very important to this process, and that is imagining who this person is, what their history is, where they are right now, and how that might affect their appearance. Now, I don't think this needs to be a huge deal. I'm not going to write out a story or do any intense research. I'm just going to source experiences that I have had in real life and use that to create this snippet of this person's life. And so in simple terms, what I'm thinking is this person is, in the moment of this portrait, is a mid-30s something professional with a bit of an edgy past. So if you can imagine with me, a Caucasian male in middle school, high school, teenage years, being interested in some edgier things, like alternative things, maybe skateboarding, maybe he had a garage punk band, maybe he was just interested in alternative ideas of society. And so in terms of appearance, maybe he got some tattoos, maybe he wore a lot of black, maybe had a mohawk at one time, dyed his hair at one time, that sort of edgy teenage angst history. But as time went on, life became real. Maybe the garage punk band was never signed to a label, the pro skateboarding thing never happened, and they met someone, got married, maybe had a kid or two, and for all of that, he needs a quote-unquote real job. And so maybe in college, he developed some professional skills. I'm thinking like something in the tech industry, some sort of development or web design that gets him hired with some startup tech company. And so now he's that sort of tech professional, probably not wearing collared shirts, but I'm thinking a hoodie. I'm thinking some glasses as well, of course. I'm not quite sure about what the hair is. I'm thinking something shorter, but to spice the appearance up and harken back to the history, I'm thinking in the neck, we put some sort of cool tattoo in the skin texture. And so that's my summary of this person and the vibe that they're giving off. And so at this point, let's actually take that and apply it to our work. I have a collection of images for referencing glasses that I want to take a look at. And it's nothing too crazy, but again, the glasses themselves, I think, are misleading to look at by themselves. I think glasses contribute to an overall impression of a person's appearance. And so all these images represent some facet of either the type of glasses or the type of vibe I'm looking for. And really, I think this guy is my favorite, just in the face. This type of personality, I think, is most similar to what I'm imagining for our dude. But the glasses are really small, so there's not a ton of practical reference here. So that's what this image is for. And, you know, we're getting this kind of, I guess, injection molded plastic frame. Maybe it'll have the tortoise shell coloration, but then on these glasses, you know, it's got a few different types of surfaces, the tortoise shell as well as a metal side piece here. This one also is probably the best reference. I like these glasses. They seem a little more tech industry to me, but they also might be trying a little too hard. I don't know if that's what our guy is necessarily like. And so these will inform the type of glasses. I think this will be my main reference, at least in terms of the shape. And actually, I do have a better reference. I wear glasses, and this type of shape is what my glasses are like. I don't think I'm going to go with the clear, but in terms of shape, this is an ideal reference, so I can have it in my hand to guide our modeling process. And so let's get to work. Now, this workflow is going to be different than anything else we've done in the course so far. It's just straight up hard surface modeling. If you're not familiar with those skills, then I highly recommend you watch our beginner modeling courses to get up to speed with these skills and concepts. Or you could watch this video and then decide where you stand if you need to watch those or not. But to get started, I'm going to go to our front orthographic, which, by the way, can we agree how weird the head looks in orthographic? It almost looks alien, like the head is way too large. The face looks fine, but yeah, the proportions of the head and the ears look really strange. And this is why I never sculpt in orthographic mode. I don't really understand why people do, but people do. And some very good artists sculpt in orthographic. I just think there's a clear disconnect from this hypothetical view compared to perspective where it looks good. And then in orthographic, it's always just a little bit off. And you never see objects this way. Anyway, that's kind of a rant against modeling in orthographic view. But I digress. So the glasses. I'm going to hit Shift-C to return our cursor to the center of the world. And hit Shift-A and add a mesh plane. I'm then going to move it up in Z just to about where the glasses will start. This is not important. I'm just putting the origin in the center horizontally and then vertically at eye level. But I just want one vertex in edit mode, and that's how I'm going to start by basically extruding a ring of edges to match the profile of our glasses lens. And let's see. Something to keep in mind is the fact that it's somewhat square. So if I'm dealing with a smoothed square object, I want to have 3 verts in each corner to kind of define that. So holding Control and then right-clicking, this kind of 3-vert corner will create that shape ultimately for us. And then we'll go to the next corner, add 3, the next corner, and then the last corner. And then we'll connect that. And so this is a simplified version. I want to just make sure that our shape matches what we see over here in our reference. Feels like maybe it's a bit too small. I feel like the bottom of the rim comes down lower towards the nostril and maybe out a little bit more too. So there's different types of glasses. Keep accidentally hitting the V key. All right, so those are our corners. And then I want to add 3 verts on the top edge to give that a rounded profile. And then we'll just do 2 on the side since it's more of a rectangle, not a square. And then I want to match that top to bottom, left to right. So that's 3 on the bottom as well. Just kind of bring those lower, round out the curve, and then 2 on this other side. There we go, bring that out. Maybe this corner, the tighter you make these 3 verts, the tighter the corner or sharper the corner will be. There we go. I think that feels pretty good. And then I'll select everything and let's see, I was kind of creating the lens, but now I want to scale this shape up to be the outside of the rim. So I'm just going to hit S and scale up slightly. Hit F to fill this, and then I to inset. All right, so this will be the thickness of our rim, and then I can delete that inner face. Okay, and now I want to extrude a bridge piece. So we'll take these 3 verts, E, and move over in X. Let's take this opportunity to add a mirror modifier and enable clipping so that it clips right there to the middle. Perfect. All right, so the bridge has a little bit of a curved profile itself. I think that looks good. We'll do similarly to the outside corner where you get the ear band. I'm not sure what this is called, but the piece that rests on the ear. All right, I think these verts will do the same thing, E, extrude in X, and then I'm going to scale in X to 0 so that we have a nice flat edge. And then let's take a look at this in 3D. And it's actually placed quite well. Maybe move the whole thing forward in Y slightly. Yeah, I think this is a great outline to the rim. But there is some subtle curvature that I want to accomplish with a couple modifiers, namely the simple deform modifier. And so hopefully you can see in my web camera the fact that there's a curve this way, and then there's also a curve this way. And I think it's easier to achieve with a simple deform than doing it by hand. And so I'm going to add first Shift S, snap the cursor right here to the center of the bridge, and then add an empty plane axes. We're going to make that much smaller. Let's see, that's 1 meter. This is just a reminder that our head is not to scale. Yeah, I need to keep that in mind. Wondering if that will be an issue during shading, but just something to put a pin in. All right. We'll go down to 0.5 just to make it a little bit smaller. This is going to be a utility object to define how the simple deform modifier curves. So we'll grab simple deform, switch it to bend, and then eyedrop tool that empty. And by default, we get that first type of curvature, but it's way too strong. So let's go down to like 12 degrees, something much more subtle. There we go. All right, so that's one direction we want to curve it in. And then we will duplicate this and then choose a different axis, the Z axis. Wait, can you do both of these at the same time? No, okay. That's not possible, and that's why we duplicated the modifier. And again, it's a pretty subtle value. I think maybe 17 or 18. There, maybe that's a little bit strong. Let's go down to 15. Okay, excellent. Then we can apply those and continue extruding. Go ahead and get rid of that empty. And now we will extrude the ear support backward to the ear using the side orthographic. And also, as characteristic with glasses, these bend outward. They don't go straight back. All right, so we want to position that to comfortably sit on the top of the ear where it connects to the head. Something like this. Okay, and then from the orthographic, it's important to align that properly because now we're going to add new edge loops to define the shape a bit better, but we want to keep the overall shape straight backward toward the ear. And then when adding this edge loop, let's change to active element so we can scale from that active vert and give it this kind of peak pointed downward right here. Add a couple more edge loops and do the same thing except scale them smaller. This will result in a curve on the bottom. You see that? And then for the part that kind of hooks behind the ear, let's extrude that out. And then, let's see, I might need to scale this up. Also, probably should bevel this, Control B. Let's make sure that we have 2 segments. And let's see, maybe move this up a little bit. I don't want it intersecting with the ear too much. Okay, I think this is looking pretty good. Of course, this piece tends to hook back into, or rather toward the head. There we go. Excellent. All right, let's go to object mode, shade smooth. Yeah, that's feeling pretty good for now. I think we're ready to add thickness, but before I do that, I want to go ahead and separate the front frame from the ear supports. So I will, in face mode, select the ear support and hit Y. Okay, this keeps it part of the same mesh, but it cuts it off into its own mesh island. And the reason I want to do that is both these pieces will have different thicknesses. And so let's start here with the front. Hit the L key to select the mesh island, and then E. And I like to right click after extruding and use Alt S to push out for thickness instead. I'm grabbing my glasses to kind of get an idea for how thick they need to be. About like this. All right, then our normals seem to be reversed, so let's select everything, Shift in. And now this reveals that I need a little bit more room in between the glasses and the head. So I'll push those forward in Y. Okay, and I made sure to grab the corner of our ear support as well, so those align. And then, let's see, by separating these, it represents that this is where the earpiece folds in and collapses. And so I'm going to put something like a 45-degree angle in here. I'm not going to mesh slide. Let's just move that in X to keep it straight. And then from here, I think I'll hide the earpiece, Shift H, and just focus on the front frame. Now we need to harden these edges a bit and fine-tune some shapes like the bridge. It needs to bump out a little bit. There's also the nose supports that we need to model. But first I'm going to cut some holding edges right here on the edge, on the inside edge of where the lens is going to go. Maybe push that face loop out slightly. All right, it'll help to actually add a subsurface modifier to see the smooth version. And yeah, it's way too rounded. We need some supporting edges, probably on this side as well. Just like we did on the inside, kind of push those out. I think that feels pretty good. Let's tighten up this connection where it will hinge with the earpiece. Oh, wait. I don't think I wanted to push those out specifically. So I'll just eyeball to get those flat again with Alt-S. Okay. Control B to add a tight bevel here. Make sure that we're at a shape of 1. We might need to go up to, well, okay, it was a viewport level of 1. Okay, yeah, it does look pretty nice and smooth at level 2, so I think we'll be fine there. Okay, let's focus on the bridge and then the nose support. All right, so Alt-click to select this edge or face loop, and then we'll move forward in Y, and then just grab the center edge loop, also bring that forward in Y, so we have this little curve. And then on my glasses, I doubt you'll be able to see, but there is kind of a sharp detail right there. The edge gets sharp. So I think that looks kind of nice, and I think I'll put it in here. Let's see, what's the best way to do that? Okay, now we'll, let's see, turn off subdivision surface. And actually, I feel like this needs to kind of change edge flow a little bit. All right, let's go to local view, so we're just looking at our glasses. And bear with me while I redirect these edges. Because this sharp edge is noticeably angled right down this way. But the geometry was not compensating enough for that. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, yeah, this should work out fine. So we're maintaining quads. And do the same thing to the other side. All right, I think this should work out pretty well. Okay, so now that the edge flow is going the right direction, should be a simple matter of just sharpening this. So select those edges, Control B, and then collapse at the end. All right, let's see what that looks like smoothed. All right, it's the right idea, but it's pushing out over here, so we'll push that in. Let's see, maybe I should have made the junction, the diamond junction, one more loop backwards, like right here. To make it a little less noticeable. Okay, with that junction moved backward, it should be a lot cleaner. There we go. That's the kind of detail that's on my glasses. Something small. but I think it looks nice. And if it reflects properly, it should show up quite nicely. Still feel like this is just kind of awkwardly positioned. All right, that feels a little more balanced. All right, and then the nose support. All right, so what we're gonna do here is first I'll show you kind of what's happening. We're talking about these guys right here. All right, it's just like a smooth extruded piece that hugs the side of the nose to support the glasses. And this should be simple enough to just grab these faces, E extrude in Y, and then slide these up and down hitting G twice. Let me take one more look at, okay, yeah. Overall, they're quite smooth. Yeah, and they look a lot like that. The only thing I don't like is this ridge here in the middle on both sides. So I think I should be able to solve that by just kind of cutting this supporting edge loop around, and then M to merge at the center. Let's do that all the way down. There we go. All right, let's see what that looks like smoothed. Nice, the ridge is gone. I think that's gonna work out great. Although I don't love that it's kind of squared off, so how about I just kind of slide these edges toward each other. Okay, that's going to work out well. One more test, just make sure if we leave local view that this nose piece is in fact resting on the nose. Let's see, it might need to be brought down slightly, the glasses as a whole, which does present a bit of a problem. Let's see. It also needs to be angled. All right, so let's use proportional editing. And let's see here, we will grab this face, kind of pull the whole thing to the side. Make sure we're doing this in with smooth enabled. And pull this whole thing kind of in so it rests nicely on the nose. All right, I think that's probably good enough. Make sure we're not losing too much of our original glasses shape. I feel like this corner is probably a little bit too strong to define, so we'll smooth those out with the edge slide tool. Okay, I think we're going to be good on that front frame. Well, maybe spoke a little too soon. You know, I honestly am trying to speed through this a little bit, and that's not the right approach. The reason you want to make sure you take your time here is because whatever accessory you add to a portrait, if it's not up to the same level of detail and refinement as your head, then it's going to be a detractor, not a contributor to your final project. So you do want to make sure that any accessory you add is fully detailed as your head mesh. Sometimes it can feel like you're phoning in these models rather than giving them the time that they require, at least to match the level of your head. So I'm trying to be quick, but really I need to make sure that this is done properly. All right, let's polish off the ear support. Disable subdivision smoothing and let's extrude. And we'll just make the thickness, it's going to be less than the front frame, and we can make it match pretty close. Right about there. Select it again, shift in to reverse the normals, and now we can just snap these verts to their counterpart, G. And let's see, I need to make it snap to itself, project onto itself. And then it's just a matter, let's hide the front frame. And it's the same kind of thing where we're adding holding edges here with B bevel. And then also, I think I needed one this way. All right, let's see how that looks. Okay, it's not quite perfect, as in the profiles don't match exactly. So I think I just need a little more definition. But what does it look like back here? I actually like the way it's defined in the rear. Whoops, we have an error I need to adjust. All right, so maybe I will simply add more geometry up here. That's the beauty of polygon modeling, the ability to add isolated detail. All right, so if we just merge this, I think we'll have enough detail. Maybe add one more edge loop. It's not a great idea to have a diamond junction on the edge of your model, on the hard edge. So it's the same thing we did on the bridge of the front frame, just moving it back an edge loop. Okay, so now with this extra geometry, we can move them up and down to define those edges a bit better. I want to make it gradual. Yeah, and that's making the profiles match much better. I think I probably messed that up a little bit. Yeah, I took those edges up, but didn't take their interior holding edge with them. All right, Alt H. Now that should match basically perfectly. Oh. But that's like a razor edge right here. I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. Let's see, let's see. All right, I'm cutting a new edge loop, and then I'm going to hit E, which will make it align to one edge or the other. And if you want to switch to the other one, you can hit F. All right, you see how it's parallel to one side or the other? So I want it to be parallel to the right side. All right, and this is where we're going to be able to kind of round over the corner so it's not so sharp. There we go. Let's see if that's enough. Yeah, that's more like it. All right, let's get a feel for the glasses now that the frame is finished. Oh, except for that little part in the back that I messed up. What happened here? I accidentally separated these, it looks like. Okay. So let's see. We can solve it easy enough. E to extrude. Right click, Alt S to push it out. Okay, and then I'll delete these faces, or it's a face loop. Looks like I need some additional geometry to connect it. Okay, but now with this segment in between even numbers of verts, we can easily bridge that space with the F2 add-on. All right, I think that's going to be good for the glasses frame. And now for the lens itself. We can easily actually just source an edge loop in here. So Shift D will duplicate that. Shift H to hide everything else. And since we kept our verts even, we've got 22 verts and they all correspond correctly, it's an ideal candidate for the grid fill tool. So I'll hit my spacebar key, type in grid, and choose grid fill. Now it's a matter of finding the right values. Okay, that's what I wanted. 5 in span and 2 in offset. And what's cool about this tool is it tries to fill in or compensate for the built-in curvature. So you see that it's not a planar grid fill. That's perfect because we already have the curvature of our lens built in. And I think that's a really slick feature of that operator. So we've got the front side of the lens, but now for the back side, I don't know if you'll be able to tell this, but hopefully you can see that the outside is a little bit thicker than the inside, and it's also more extremely curved. So what I'm going to do to achieve this, and I think that's where we get the magnification effect of glasses. So to achieve this, I'm going to duplicate rather than extrude, Alt-S and push in to get the general thickness, though it doesn't really matter at this point. Shift in and click inside to reverse the direction. And so now they have identical curvatures, but I want to increase the curvature of the inside face. So I'm going to do this by selecting the middle edge, choosing proportional editing connected only, and then also use the sphere method or fall off. And I'm going to Alt-S to push the whole lens forward. Okay, so you can see how this is increasing the angle of the curvature. All right, so let's look from the top view. Let's go to local view. Now you should be able to see that. And then looking at my glasses, it is a little bit thicker on the outside. So if I rotate from the top view, it's a little bit thicker on the outside, thinner on the inside. And that should be a pretty good representation of glasses. Now we can fill the exterior edge. Let's see what this looks like. Smoothed. Not great because we need some pretty defining hard edges to the lens. In fact, if we look really close, there's no way you'll be able to tell here, but there's an extremely sharp actual bevel, right? So let's model this quickly. All right, select the whole border edge, Control B, and I want to make it one segment, and it's a pretty small bevel. All right, and then from here, Shift Control Alt click on the inside, and that will deselect the edge ring. Okay, you can see how now we've got two separate edge loops selected. Control B to then bevel those nice and tight with two segments. And now when we see that by itself, we've got this really fine, sharp bevel. And that's what I see in my glasses. That's the kind of detail you probably won't get from reference images alone, but taking advantage of having this in my hand. And then just one more sharp bevel on the front. I don't see evidence of this in my glasses, so this one, I mean, I don't see the same type of bevel as back here. So it's just a single sharp edge. Leave local view. And then for visualizing this, you know, it's an option to render these as sunglasses if we want, but I plan to render them as reading glasses. And so it's a good opportunity to go ahead and kind of rough in the transparency. So I'm going to add two slots. And in the second slot, go ahead and create glasses lens. Tab into edit mode, select our lens and assign it. And then in our viewport display, we'll change the color. And if we take the alpha transparency value down, now we've got a more intuitive visualization. Let's see if we make the roughness like really small, like 0.01. There we go. Got a little bit of OpenGL reflectivity. And so that should work out pretty well as a set of glasses for our portrait. And hopefully this hasn't been too jarring of a workflow shift. For me personally, I enjoy this kind of side quest, so to speak, using a different set of skills. But I totally understand if you're not used to hard surface modeling, it could be more annoying than enjoyable. But again, reference the beginner modeling courses, and that will get you up to speed perfectly. So the next thing I want to build is the clothing.